There is a lot of rumors going around right now that Maple Leafs forward Mitch Marner could likely receive an offer sheet, possibly even today. I want to take a look at where these rumors come from, could it actually happen, and if so, which teams are most likely to possibly do it. We'll get into all of that coming up next. Welcome back here to Top Shelf Hockey. Now, as I mentioned, there's a ton of rumors going around right now about Mitch Marner possibly receiving an offer sheet as soon as today, which some believe could be the case here. But as I'm filming this, we're getting later into the afternoon. There's been no news as of yet. So I guess we will see. I'm not really sure on the timing. I'm not really sure this is going to happen at all. I just wanted to address the rumors, show you where they're coming from, and take a look at some of the possibilities that are being discussed out there and see what you think, if this is something that we might actually see happen here or not. Now, things kind of really kicked off here yesterday when Dave Pagnotta of thefourthperiod.com put this out on Twitter. His tweet says, "Increased chatter on at least one team is very seriously considering presenting Mitch Marner with an offer sheet. Unclear on timing if it happens. Of course, Marner would have to sign, and if he does, Leafs will have a decision to make, something to watch as talks with Toronto continue." So obviously there hadn't really been a lot of talk around Marner and an offer sheet in some time. Obviously we've seen the Habs present one to Sebastian Aho, which he did sign, and then Carolina later matched. So there's been a little bit more talk about offer sheets, but really over the past week or since July 1st, we really haven't heard a whole lot about Mitch Marner receiving one. There's been all kinds of talk and chatter leading up to free agency on whether or not it could happen, but things were kind of quiet. We keep hearing that Kyle Dubas and Marner's camp and Darren Ferris's agent are continuing to have talks, but obviously they're not close to a deal as of yet because there's been no news on that front either. So this tweet going out kind of stirred things up again and got a renewed conversation going. And then, of course, nothing more came of it yesterday, but then there's more information on Twitter coming today. And here's what Pagnotta had to say earlier today. About mid-morning today, he says, multiple teams have considered pursuing Marner, including the New York Islanders and Montreal. Hearing the Islanders are serious about pursuit, while Canadiens may be focused on Laine. Whether Isles or another team move forward with an offer sheet remains to be seen. It should be noted that while other teams are considering the offer sheet route, the Maple Leafs have remained in ongoing dialogue with Marner's camp as well. An offer sheet isn't guaranteed despite the chatter. Obviously, he's just hearing that teams are talking about it, thinking about it, and seriously considering it. And he goes on to name some teams here, specifically the New York Islanders, and mentions Montreal, but also mentions that the Habs might be more focused on Patrik Laine. Now, in yesterday's video, I addressed the possibility about the Habs maybe renewing a new offer sheet. Would they go down that road again, or is one time enough here? They obviously weren't successful. Would they do it again, or would they give it up and try to address their roster needs or any other moves they want to make through different methods? And I said that I didn't think they would go down the road again, but if they did, I would expect Patrik Laine. So obviously, what he's hearing kind of lines up with what I was thinking. Of course, no guarantees that any of that happens, but I don't really see Montreal going after Marner myself. But I guess we'll see here. He seems to name the New York Islanders as being the more likely possibility here. Now, there's also a personality on Twitter called Joey Vendetta, who I wasn't familiar with until stuff started popping up on Twitter about him today regarding him saying that he felt a Marner offer sheet was coming and it was going to happen today. That's where the date came from, was him. I can't honestly say that I'm familiar with him enough to know if his sources are valid or not, or if he's got any kind of insiders or what he may know or not know. Obviously, he seems to think that an offer sheet is coming as well, and he had mentioned that it could be coming today. But like I said, as I record this video, so far nothing has happened. Taking a look at the Habs and the Islanders' salary cap situation here just to see, is this possible at all? Let's have a look here. First at Montreal, and you can see here they have $8.469 million in salary cap space. And of course, they could move some players out now. And also keep in mind that during the offseason, you can exceed the salary cap by up to 10%. You don't have to be cap compliant during the summer while you're making moves and adjusting your roster, but they do have to have that sorted out by the time they actually start the regular season. So they have time, if they want to go over the cap, take a chance to successfully land another RFA here. They could very well make other moves after they get themselves back in line with the cap. Now let's take a look at the New York Islanders. Now, of course, they have 8.653, so not a great deal of difference in cap space between the Islanders and the Habs. They both have all kinds of draft picks, so there's no issues that way. They could make any kind of offer they wanted to the maximum on an offer sheet, and they would have the draft picks to provide that in return should the actual offer sheet be successfully signed and not matched by the opposing team. Now, there was also some talk here about all the chatter on Twitter that the Marner offer sheet was expected to be $12.5 million. So it's hard to imagine that the Toronto Maple Leafs would actually match the $12.5 million offer sheet for Mitch Marner. Many believe that if another team wants to come along and pay that crazy amount, that they would say, okay, that's fine, you have them, we'll take the draft picks. But like Dave Pagnotta pointed out here early on, Marner would have to sign the offer sheet, and I'm sure that Marner and his agent are well aware of the possibilities here that you really shouldn't be signing an offer sheet unless you are prepared to leave. Because if they don't match, you're gone. Like, that's just how it goes. And as much as you want to get paid, do you really care where you want to play? Now, I think deep down, Mitch Marner wants to be a Maple Leaf. Obviously, grew up in the area, grew up a lifelong fan of this team. Has been playing on this team for a while now. I'm sure he loves everything about Toronto, all the endorsement deals that come with it, and everything about it. But he has to keep that in mind, that there is a possibility that Dubas might not actually match, and he may end up on another team. And there's no guarantee he's going to be on a team that's as good as Toronto, or that he may have as many endorsement opportunities. And there's a lot of other factors here that he needs to consider. So would he even sign it, or is it more of an empty threat here than anything else? It's really difficult to say. I'm not sure. I mean, just because an offer sheet's received doesn't mean it's going to be signed. But if it is received, it also doesn't mean that the agent can't go back to the Leafs and, I guess, threaten to sign it and try to get them to bend further on the contract that they're negotiating with the Maple Leafs. So I don't know. Personally, I think if any team wants to offer sheet Mitch Marner at $12.5 million, I think they're a little bit crazy. As much as Mitch Marner's a terrific hockey player, I think any team would be lucky to have him. To give up 4 first-round picks for anybody right now, you better make sure that that player really takes your team and puts it over the top to make it an overwhelming Stanley Cup favorite, because that's a pretty steep price to pay. And I just don't know if these other teams that are talking about maybe offer sheeting him, if he's going to really make them that much better or put them in such salary cap hell that they're going to have their own issues here in the short term and really end up making other moves anyway. Like, look at the New York Islanders. Does it really make sense for them to offer sheet Mitch Marner? Yes, they'd have to go over the cap. They'd have to find ways to dump other salary right now to get into cap compliance here for the coming season. And then they're going to have Matthew Barzal coming up here shortly as an RFA as well, and then they're not going to have money to pay him. They're going to have to cut more salary. They just signed Anders Lee. They just signed Brock Nelson. They just signed Jordan Eberle. They just signed Semyon Varlamov. So there's a lot of these guys that they're not going to be getting rid of. They just signed these players. So I find it highly doubtful that the New York Islanders would go down this route and actually go for a $12.5 million offer sheet on Mitch Marner. I can see the idea that they'd want to get him on their team. Who wouldn't? But for that price, that just seems a little bit crazy. And I'm not going to rule out the possibility that they are crazy enough to do it, but I just don't think it's a good idea in the short term here, and I just don't see it happening. I would think that Lou Lamoriello is a little bit more intelligent than that, to risk his team's future and put them in really serious cap trouble and give up all those picks for one player like that. I'm just not sure that it's really worth it. But at the end of the day here, they're the team that Pagnotta's called out for being the most likely. I guess if there's other teams out there looking to do an offer sheet, you have to look at teams like the Columbus Blue Jackets. They've got nothing to lose right now. They got lots of salary cap space. They just had a free agent mass exodus between Matt Duchene and Sergei Bobrovsky and Artemi Panarin. Ryan Dzingel's rumored to not be going back. He hasn't signed anywhere yet, but it's likely not going back to Columbus. So everybody they brought in at the deadline, including Adam McQuaid too, they're likely all leaving. So they gave up all those players and picks for everybody to leave. So they've got nothing to lose right now. So I'd keep an eye on Columbus. You get the Colorado Avalanche. Joe Sakic's a very intelligent GM, very underrated over the last couple of years. Certainly worked his way up the ladder and one of the better GMs in the league. I know there was a time when he was looking to trade Matt Duchene that really a lot of people gave him a hard time and said that he was one of the worst GMs and dragging his feet and he needs to get this done. Well, look at what he got for him in that deal and look what he's done since. He's really done a terrific job there in Colorado, but they've still got lots of space. They got lots of picks. So they're another team. You still got New Jersey. New Jersey just drafted Jack Hughes. They just traded for PK Subban. They still have lots of cap space. They still have lots of picks. Ray Shero is not afraid to be aggressive as well. I would look at those 3 other teams as being the most likely outside of a team like Montreal or the Islanders. They'd be in a better position to handle it from a cap perspective than Montreal or New York. But I guess we will see what happens here. Is Mitch Marner going to receive an offer sheet? Would it make sense? And would the Maple Leafs let him go and take the compensation? Or would they match it and put themselves in really bad salary cap trouble, which they're already kind of in salary cap trouble, but at least they have a good team on paper. I think personally, the Leafs might actually be able to be better without Mitch Marner. Really, if you think, as much as he's a great hockey player, you take those 4 first-round picks and all that extra salary cap space that they'd have to work with, they could go out and add some other players and potentially be a deeper team and maybe even better overall. Like they would have the flexibility to go out and do that. So I really don't think they'd be hurt as much as they could be helped longer term to have all these extra picks and more flexibility with the cap, as much as they'd be losing a terrific player. One player does not make a team, and I just don't see the Leafs being hurt that bad by it, and I don't see the Islanders being that much beneficial from it that it would just be too much of a risk not to do it. So I guess let me know what you think down below. Is there any chance the Islanders are going to offer sheet Mitch Marner? Do you think any other team would offer sheet Mitch Marner? And if so, who? Give me your ideas down in the comment section. And if not Marner, are any other RFAs going to receive an offer sheet? Because really, I think a lot of these rumors going around are somewhat empty threats, and I really would be surprised if we see anything happen in that $12.5 or more million range. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. We cover all 31 NHL teams, and there's plenty of content here for all hockey fans to enjoy. So subscribe, turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any future content, and I will catch you next time.